All right, guys. I'm the man. I'm here to give you all the important news of the day. That's what I'm doing. But every now and then you got to have some fun. You got to sprinkle in some lighthearted stuff. So look, we're going to do a little bit of an investigation here. We have a report that's been floating around. We have some arguments here. We have allegedly, Donald Trump he's been in court, right? He has to go for this court trial. It's a criminal trial, the hush money trial in New York. And we already know for sure that he's been falling asleep in the courtroom. And we know for sure that's happened multiple times. We have a number of sources that have come out and said, yeah, that's what happened. Now, they don't have cameras in there, right? There's some sort of rule or law that you can't. But there's enough sources saying, oh, homie was falling asleep, that write it in stone. So we know that part. But the update we just got coming out of that courtroom is chef's kiss. So they are claiming he's ripping ass, dog. They are claiming he is lighting it up in there. Just letting it rip. That as he's falling asleep, he's farting. And that it's actually impacting the people around him. So, look, we know the sleeping part is real. This part is a little more speculative. But I'm going to walk you through it, and then we'll break it down. And by the way, at the end of this, we have Snopes looked into this. Very interesting. Very interesting. So here we go. This is what we're hearing right now.
Returning to the court proceedings as well, Maggie Haberman reports that Donald Trump continued to fall asleep during the proceedings as well. And, you know, what I'm hearing from my sources as well is that, you know, and I'm hearing from credible sources who know what's going on in the courtroom. And what I'm hearing is that, take it for what it's worth, but that Donald Trump is actually farting in the courtroom and that it's very stinky around him. It's a putrid odor in the courtroom, and that Trump's lawyers are like repulsed by the scent and the smell. And I'm not just saying that to be like, oh, funny. I'm actually, you know, we have good sources there. And I'm hearing it from actual credible people that as he's kind of falling asleep, he is actually passing gas, and that his lawyers are really struggling with the smell. I think you'll actually start to hear more of that, but again, from real credible sources. Now, take it for what it's worth. They may be going off the record, on background and telling me that because of, you know, it's the Midest touch, and they, you know, they think that we want to hear that. So you could judge it how you want to judge it, but real credible people who are there saying that it's putrid around him.
So these are, just so everybody understands, this guy who's reporting it, he's with the Midest Touch Network, and Midest Touch are some of the biggest like resistance liberals in the world. I mean, they are all about that Trump hating life. They swim in it. They live it. Every fiber of their being is dedicated on a daily basis to hating the shit out of Donald Trump. No pun intended, saying hating the shit. No pun intended. So, again, he even says it. He says, look, take it for what it's worth. But look, we're going to dive a little bit deeper because I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but this was floating around not that long ago. There was a hashtag, Diaper Don, that was floating around. And when I first saw that, I was like, come on, son. Look, I hate Trump as much as the next guy, but you got to be fair. You got to try to be objective with these things. But I went down that rabbit hole to see, is there any there about this idea that he's constantly letting it rip or he's wearing Depends. And I'm going to lay out the case for you, and you guys tell me. So there's a number of stories that sort of back up this notion. Let's start with this one. This is somebody who used to work on The Apprentice.
What's the deal with the diaper rumors?
That's true. Sorry to cut you off.
When you say it's true, like on a scale of like 1 to 10, I definitely absolutely know.
Witnessed, bro. Witnessed him soiling himself in a rage, sitting there on the Apprentice set, Celebrity Apprentice set, because he can't read. The same thing. He flew into a rage over the word arbitrage one time. Okay. Yeah. Soils himself, has to go off set, gets cleaned up by Keith Schiller. Keith's nickname was Wet Wipes. Okay. The crew called it the shit show. Sorry to curse, but can you imagine being the boom operator? You're wearing your headphones, holding the mic above him, and you hear that? He did it in the Oval Office. There's a clip of him doing it with the Turkish president, right? Erdogan. I always say his name wrong. It's not a hard G. Yeah. And the Feinstein and Dianne Feinstein. And they're sitting there in the Oval Office, and he clearly, has some kind of bowel movement. But you see them, look.
I'm going to show you that video in a second.
Like they hear it. But you can look up videos, your viewers can look it up, and you'll find photos of him with the outline of Depends. And I'll tell you why he wears that, because speed addiction makes you incontinent, right? Opiates make you the opposite, make you constipated. Speed makes you go, right? So he eats fast food all day and meatloaf, like that's all he ever eats, sorry for the graphics, and then he snorts speed, and he's almost 70 years old at the time. He's in his mid 60s. So he just lets it rip, and you never know, so you got to have some insurance against the shark, and that depends.
Now, look, I will say on the speed thing, we know that's true because, there was remember the very famous tweet of him on Cinco de Mayo, where he's like, I love Mexicans. And it was him like eating a taco bowl. In that picture, if you zoom in, there's a drawer open in the background in his desk. And he's got a bunch of those, a UK version of Sudafed, which is known for being a really strong upper. There was like some active ingredient that was taken out of the Sudafed that's sold in the US. He got the UK version of Sudafed because it had the massive stimulant upper effects. And he had it all in his drawer. Remember that? Remember when in the multiple debates he had, there were some of them where he could not stop. He could not stop snorting. Guys, anybody who's ever snorted Coke knows. That's the Coke nose. That's the, you have a couple lines, you got the drip going, and you can't help but do that. So the accusation is, he varies the upper, but it could be that UK version of Sudafed, which we know he took for a while. It could be Adderall. It could be something else that he's crushing up and snorting. So on the speed front, I think that one's like proven. All right, I got more for you. So a lot of these stories line up, dude. A lot of these stories line up from these different people who worked on The Apprentice or were around him.
The diapers is not a joke. It depends. Diaper Don is trending, but it's based in reality. He would often soil himself on The Apprentice set. He's incontinent from all the speed. The Adderall he does, the cocaine that he's done for decades, all that stuff has a laxative and it has an effect on your bowels, and his are uncontrollable. He's worn diapers since probably the 90s, but I saw it firsthand in the 2000s on Celebrity Apprentice in late 2000s, and we'd have to stop the show and change him, and that was Keith Schiller's job. He would take him off set, he would wipe him down. Our nickname for Keith was Wet Wipes. It's not a joke. It's happened several times. And you've seen it happen while he's in office. You've seen he was in the Oval Office with Erdogan, and you could clearly hear him sort of evacuating himself. He did it in front of Senator Feinstein, Dianne Feinstein, at a press conference. So he does it, and he almost sits there like and unaware of it, And one time I saw Ivanka have to go kind of whisper in his ear, and then Keith came and took him off stage. He'll also do it in a rage, and this is where it gets really drug related. He'll start to freak out. One time there was the word arbitrage on a cue card, and he started screaming that the script department was setting him up. You're setting me up, and he just freaked out, and then very loudly evacuated his bowels, and you could smell it. And the guy who was holding the boom mic, was tearing up. So that's where the nickname, the SHIT show, came from. That was the crew nickname for Celebrity Apprentice. So when you hear Diaper Don, it's not a joke. He tries to hide it. I'll give you one more fact. If you look up the video of him when he was doing the WWF thing, he tackles a guy on the ground outside of the ring, and you can clearly see the outline of the Depends in his pants. And that was back in the early 90s. So he's lost control of his bowels. He's lost control of his brain. That's who he is, Diaper Don.
Still not done. Got another one for you.
So when you post something and then someone bigger than you, like Adam Kinzinger, Bob Woodward, or that Nestor guy, confirm it. And years ago I posted about Trump being kicked out of Keen's Steakhouse in Manhattan, where I was eating with my father in 1983, because his smell was so offensive. This wasn't an elderly thing. It was 1983. I wouldn't make fun of Trump today if it was an elderly thing. That's not what we do on the left. It happens to elderly people. Trump wasn't elderly. We didn't complain. The table next to him complained, and the table behind him complained. We smelled it, but my father and I didn't complain about it. Trump was not elderly. The smell was so fucking offensive that they finally had to ask him to leave. And he did leave, quietly, right by us, and it wafted us.
They reference a moment there with Feinstein, talking about gun control, where it happens. We got that right here.
So today we're here in a bipartisan fashion to show leadership in an effort to end this senseless violence. It can be ended. So today we're here in a bipartisan fashion to show leadership in an effort to end this senseless violence.
So look, I mean, they're saying now that it was just He was falling asleep when he was farting in court. The homie may have let off a shart, bro. He may have sharted himself. Now, finally, I give you all that to give you this. We have Snopes weighed in on it. No evidence Trump passed gas in courtroom during hush money trial. And so they go on here to say, they don't say it's false. They say it's unproven. During former President Donald Trump's April 2024 hush money trial in New York City, he passed gas repeatedly while his lawyer struggled with the smell. On April 15th, the first day of the trial, they reported he fell asleep. The news went viral immediately. Days later, a new unconfirmed rumor joined the media circus. The former president had been rather flatulent. The claim appeared on April 19, 2024 in a clip posted to X by Asen, we follow him, of an interview on the Midest Touch Network. And so that's what we just showed you right there. But again, they go on to say, like, well, George Conway weighs in, but he's one of the Lincoln Project guys. So that, again, you got to take that with a grain of salt, too. I heard this, too. I'm not kidding. The court's going to have to issue more than a gag order here. So when they traced it back, this is all they could find is those two talking about it. But those people say we have sources inside the courtroom. So really, I mean, you got to try to get somebody in the courtroom who's like, yeah, I fucking heard that shit. I smelled that shit or whatever. That's basically the move. Now, they weren't able to talk to anybody in the courtroom, but they're just showing you where this originated from the Midest Touch people, which we already showed you. And again, they don't say it's false. They just say it's unproven. So, like, almost like we need to do a little more research. We need to talk to a few more people before we can say this conclusively. I don't know, man. Look, I think that if it was as clear as homie's making it out to be, then you would have had Maggie Haberman or somebody else who was in the courtroom be like, yeah, that shit is true. Like, they would have reported that, right? So very possibly could be a rumor. As you guys know, we covered the Diaper Don thing in the past, and my take on it was I'm kind of skeptical just because they would have had me almost completely, except for the part where they talk about how somebody's job was to wipe him down afterwards. It's like, Trump's a grown-ass man. There's no grown-ass man going to have another man wipe his ass for him or something when he's fully capable of wiping his own ass, right? Why would you? This person's job is to wipe his ass. Like, what are you talking about? If you're a grown man and you're sharting on yourself, you're going to go to extreme lengths to hide that. You're not going to have somebody like, yeah, Dave's job is to wipe my ass when I shit myself. That's not a thing, right? So if they didn't have that part in there, I would have been like, oh, true as fuck. Instead, I've now downgraded my perspective to just agnostic. I don't know. But I'm curious what you guys think. On the one hand, it kind of sounds fantastical, so maybe that's evidence or reason to believe it is fantastical. But on the other hand, I don't know, man. There sure is a lot of chatter over a very extended period of time, and there's an old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. Or when there's farts, there's shitting. I don't know, man. Y'all tell me, but this one's not, this whole line of argument against Trump is not going away. If anything, it's getting stronger. Not just the falling asleep thing, but farting on himself, shitting himself, or whatever. You tell me, true or false. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.